live. So.
Give me 1 second. Yep, we should be good now. We are live.
All right, thanks, Alex. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Senate Committee on Institutions. Today is March the 8th, 2022. We are resuming our conversation about various parts of the Capitol bill. Up next on our plate is major maintenance projects with the Commissioner of the Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, Michael Snyder. Welcome back to our committee. And I noticed that you have two of your subordinates here. I don't mean that as a derogatory term, because they may in fact have more knowledge of what goes on in your department than the commissioner does.
Well, they didn't speak really highly of the commissioner.
But we'd like to welcome all three of you back to our committee. As you know, we like to have humor here, so whatever you can do to enlighten our afternoon is most appreciated. We are going to talk about major maintenance, and the floor is yours.
Great. Well, thanks, Chair Benning, and good afternoon, all. Nice to be in the building, and appreciate folks being on with me here, Frank and Nate as well. We can try to meet your request for humor and fun, and along the way, share what we can of our capital program, parks maintenance and infrastructure projects, major maintenance, etc.
We should start by introducing you and giving a little bit of a bio about your background so the YouTube public can remember who you are.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. For the record, Michael Snyder, Commissioner of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, with Nate McKean, Director of State Parks, and Frank Spalding, Parks Program Project Manager via Zoom. As Commissioner of the Department, and one of three departments in the Agency of Natural Resources. I've been commissioner since Governor Shumlin first appointed me in late 2010. Grateful to be reappointed by Governor Scott in 2016. Our leading department that's very well named. Our purview is the forest industry of the state park system, and outdoor recreation through state forests, state parks, private lands, and our partnership with many organizations around the state. So if we're well named, it really does describe the work of our department. And that's who I'm here. Who I am and basically what we do. And the point today is to talk about this really important component of our work, which is the capital appropriation we receive for taking care of these places that we manage and steward on behalf of all Vermonters. It includes state forests, state parks, and outdoor recreation assets and infrastructure, but it really does tend to be mostly about Vermont state parks. And we have, it's a significant enterprise. It's a business enterprise, if you will, within state government, and it includes a significant amount of built and infrastructure and facilities. The third largest owner of square footage in the state, with a complex system of 55 developed parks, which is really just the surface, and each one of those are campgrounds and bath facilities and beach houses and cabins and cottages and contact stations, underground piping for water and wastewater, sewer systems, water systems. It's complicated. There's a lot there. Buildings. And so the capital program is very important in that, and if you consider the total replacement value of state parks assets, some $285 million. If you kind of use normal and customary approaches to how to recapitalize and maintain, that would, if you follow those that kind of guidance, we would be looking at spending on the order of $7 million annually for this sort of upkeep. We generally receive on the order of a couple or $3 million in the capital cycle. The last time we received $5 million and almost $5 million. So for total, that was a big step up in the last round to almost $10 million for this, which again is significant. Not like it's some base funding now, and it's still short, we would say, of what we would need to really do our best at stewarding these places. That said, we are enormously grateful, and our team, exemplified by Frank and Nate here, they lead a crew of people who do amazing things. And that includes, we basically take that funding, whatever level it is, And we apply it it doesn't come in a line item approach where some capital appropriations are for a specific thing. Ours comes to us for this kind of large category. We break it up then according to our running list of assets and infrastructure and projects and needs that spans 15 years or so. And then each year we kind of update and we spread that money around in kind of 4 categories. That's larger scale infrastructure, rehabilitation and improvement. These are kind of overhauling a park in a major way with a redesign. Remember, the state parks infrastructure is born mostly in the Civilian Conservation Corps era of the 30s, and another pulse in the 50s, 60s. So either way, they're old, and there's a lot to tend to, including historic elements that we are mindful of. So we sometimes find ourselves needing to completely reimagine the park and redo an overhaul. That's the big, large-scale infrastructure rehabilitation. We also have another category that's road infrastructure. We have about 600 miles of forest and parks access roads, important for the recreating public, important for our management of these places, important for emergency access, and to some extent, commuter use of these roads. Senator Mazza heard a little bit about our work with V-Trans to try to cooperate with each other and benefit each other on how we handle the road system, because it's quite a lot. That was in the Transportation Committee. So that's 2 categories. Then we have wastewater category. We spend a significant amount in each cycle upgrading or rebuilding or creating wastewater systems, which is important for human health, water quality, et cetera. And then we have our small scale infrastructure projects. So this is everything that generally related to building replacement of components, like roofs, electrical supplies, finishes and fixtures. So we break the big total capital appropriation into these 4 buckets and strategically deploy those funding in those categories around the state geographically, and kind of keeping track of the timing of these, trying to stay on top of issues. With an eye towards amenities for our visiting public, to reduce costs, to increase revenues, to enhance the visitor experience. It's kind of a broad mix of things that go into that planning, but it's basically deploying out, putting contractors to work around the state, and getting, investing in these public places in a strategic way. I hope that's helpful for kind of background and a reminder of how we approach the capital allocation. And, I bet Frank, between the 2 of them, Frank and Nate could describe current projects that are near you in Lindenville, say, or near Senator Ennis. Like Sandbar comes to mind, and big projects ongoing there, which Senator Mazza would be looking at on a daily basis. So we've got projects going on around the state. If it's of interest, that could be, you mentioned fun. I'm not sure we've gotten to the fun part yet. So the fun might be in hearing about some of these projects, because they are really cool, actually.
We would like to hear, and just for the benefit of the YouTube audience, all of the infrastructure that you are talking about that the state has to support ends up coming through for funding in the capital bill. That is the vehicle that we use in this committee moving forward. So when you come for a request that Project X needs to be dealt with, generally speaking, Project X is likely going to be part of the capital bill moving forward. That's just a basic piece of information for our YouTube audience.
Right. And it's a helpful distinction and different from our operating budget that covers other elements of the significant operation.
Right. So your paycheck, for instance, doesn't come through the capital bill. That's
correct.
Through the budget.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, it's an important distinction there. This is bonded money. It's for projects that have a 20-year or greater lifespan. These are basic principles of capital funding and how we use it. Yes.
So moving forward, I'd be happy to hear about some individual projects around the state that you're working on, if you can update us as to where things are.
Yes, let's do that. I think the guys are ready to do so. Nate, would you be kicking that off, or do you want to just do what I do and ask Frank?
You can't go wrong by throwing it to Frank. I'll just add in the fun part, the commissioner of fun. I find that a challenge with expending our funds and prioritizing capital, because we'd like to spend it all on the fun stuff playgrounds, beach fronts, visitor amenities, but so much of that infrastructure is just basic operational facilities to keep the bathrooms running and keep the parks functioning. So it's always a balance trying to build out new stuff that the visitors are going to be really excited about while paying enough attention to the basic between the walls, underneath the ground, roofs, foundations, and things like that. And
Very
Frank's
cool.
the quarterback.
There's just so much that's sort of unseen, literally underground. And that's hard to make that fun, but you can't have fun. Everyone's having fun based on those things being there. Great point, Nate.
Frank, you're the quarterback. Let her rip.
There's my unmute button. Sorry for the delay. Thanks, everyone. Frank Spalding, State Parks Project Manager. I think as opposed to like repeating what Commissioner Snyder said, I'd like to focus on a couple areas in conversation. It was mentioned about the water, wastewater, and I wanted to use this category to kind of illustrate not just how we allocate the money, but how we tackle the projects. And I think the water, wastewater category of work, everyone understands it. Not many people get to see it, but certainly everyone appreciates when it works. And it's usually not a good picture when it doesn't work. So we've allocated over the past, out of this fiscal year 2022 money, the current year we're in, approximately $600,000 for water and wastewater work, drinking water and sewer work. And we kind of break, and so that's the larger projects. Those are system replacements. And then we also have this little set aside amount that we kind of set aside about $200,000 every year that we hold on to for about 6 months until we get to the end of the season. And we set that aside in case something breaks. We prefer to fix things before they break, but sometimes things happen. And we've actually not seen that as frequently because we've been spending better in terms of preventive maintenance, preventive work. We had 2 systems fail this year. We had the disposal field at Maidstone at one of the toilet buildings and the disposal field at Little River. Both failed for the farmhouse. Because we had that small set aside, we were able to immediately design corrections to those facilities and fund their construction, and they will be executed this spring before we open the next season. And we did that without having to impact other work. Had we not had those failures, we would have slid that money to another preventative project and kept this ship rolling. The larger projects, we have an incredible partnership with the Facilities Engineering Division out of Department of Environmental Conservation. We have a pipeline of projects in various stages of planning. They've evaluated our systems. They've used an EPA-derived prioritization system, and they have projects planned out for the next 5 to 6 years. And because of that partnership and because of our planning process, we were able to bid the projects out for the fiscal year 22 money. As soon as you folks voted to appropriate it, we were able to bid it out in anticipation of the funding hitting our books in July. And so right now, as we speak right now, the Grand Isle State Park's water distribution system is being replaced by Munson Earth Moving. That's happening today with fiscal year 22 money. The Silver Lake State Park down in Barnard, the drinking water distribution system in that park is being fully replaced by Daniels Construction out of Weathersfield. And then the Quechee State Park, in combination with some cabin money that was appropriated last year, is having the dump station and sewage pump stations replaced as part of a cabin project. And that's being done by Jay Hutchins out of Williston. Williston. So that's just a snapshot of, and it kind of illustrates how we tackle this ongoing rehabilitation of our state park system. And I think that funding portion right there, I think best illustrates it. And we have other projects if you'd like me to go into those, but I just wanted to illustrate how we do that with that kind of money.
Thank you, Frank.
Well, Frank, you better at least tell Senator Ingalls and I what we look forward to in our neck of the woods, because so far I've only heard Colchester and Windsor County being covered.
That's the
So-
important part of the state. We just fund your part of the state.
Totally staying out of that.
Just
So,
give me what's in Senator Maz's back pocket. I'll be happy.
actually one of the other allocations that we received last year was the ongoing design for the replacement of two maintenance facilities. One that's in Groton and the other that's in Gifford Woods down in Killington. These are both facilities that have lived well beyond their expected lifespan or what is even a respectable lifespan. And we've contracted with E.H. Danson Associates out of St. Johnsbury, who is doing the full. They're actually getting through design development now with the money that you appropriated to us last year to come back in the fall when we start talking about the next biennium with a full set of plans and designs and estimates. In addition, part of that funds is also going to stabilize the CCC garage, 1930s era garage that is currently used for maintenance function in Groton. We have designs in hand to structurally stabilize that structure, so when a new facility is built for Groton, that structure will be preserved and converted to cold storage space, so that we are reusing the building, providing needed cold storage space, yet building a more efficient maintenance facility adjacent that would be no fossil fuels, solar panels, net zero kind of this century actually, maintenance facility.
But we like to hear about that money being spent in Caledonia County. Appreciate that.
And I don't know if Commissioner Snyder, if you want to talk about the Willoughby project, that's also a large project that we're helping manage.
Right, that's an exciting one there. That's the south end of Willoughby Lake, Willoughby State Forest. Probably quite familiar with the two beach areas there that are enormously popular. They've really gotten more so, with lots of pressures from folks cutting vegetation, to not having a place to relieve themselves in the woods, trash, erosion, so parking. So this has been a real challenge. We have this redesign built on a lot of local engagement and some grant funding, some capital funding, and the team doing a great plan to get some off-site parking, off-road parking, get off Route 5, I think. To, if that's a safety concern, to close out some eroded trails, rehabilitate others, put in some composting toilets, create a recreational facility there that's sufficient for the use without changing the real true nature. It's a gem. Or turning it into something that it isn't, that people don't want it to be. That's a great example. Frank's discussion of like the money put aside for emergencies, it reminds me, it's a very important point. It's just to think about, we get this money largely to be deployed in an operating park system. That really crimps our available window for construction work. We don't want to be doing that during close a campground or keep people out or have them have a miserable experience because we're renovating. So we're pinched to the shoulder in winter seasons. That brings a bunch of complications. Also calls for that good planning and a pipeline. Frank's very good at having things lined up, so we're ready to go. When the campers move out, shovels are ready, and we're rolling. It's just another example. We span the operating season of the park spans 2 fiscal years, right? And we have these restraints on our ability to work because we're trying to operate a park. And that also, but when something does go wrong, we want to be able to not have to shut down the park, as Frank said, and be able to deal with it. So have the resources, have the planning, and it's just a complex enterprise. And it's amazing when I listen to these guys, just how much there is to it and how much we end up getting done because of it.
I'm kind of curious about the Willoughby situation. A couple of years ago, there was somewhat of a dispute between the town and the state, or at least the locals in the state, about what was going to happen with the southern portion of that lake area.
Right, which has
that been resolved?
Yes, to some extent. Good afternoon, Senator Chris. So for folks who may not know, traditionally, one of the two beaches, the farther in beach, has been I'll say a clothing optional experience for many. And we've encountered this with folks expressing concern on a number of levels. And our take originally was, our role here is not to help people determine if or what clothes to wear, but it very much is about how they behave. And there was some poor behavior, and that's not okay with us, so we try to manage that. We also look to our host communities as being very important. In the town of Westmore, it was not illegal to be clothing optional. So we're going to take our lead from our host community with their policies. Beyond that, on the public lands, we're not going to tell you what to wear, but we are going to ask you to behave respectfully to all people. And that's how we've handled that there. And so it came up in the course of our discussion of permitting, local permits for this rehabilitation and site work. What are you going to do about that? We're not going to do anything about that, but we'd like to think that the changes we're going to make are going to make it easier for people to play. There's some fun, Senator. Enjoy and do so nicely with others and have opportunities to avoid that which you don't want to experience.
So the conflict that was going on there, you resolved that, you got the restraining order against Senator Ingalls?
If you're going to quote the great Frank Spalding and say, I'm not going there.
All they had to do was point and laugh, and I was in good order.
Well, it's good to hear. That was a conflict that a lot of people locally were concerned about.
Indeed,
It's been
indeed.
resolved.
And I'm proud of our team. We all, myself included, went up there and listened. We engaged with folks. And it was challenging because change is hard, and people locally, I came from a place where when they changed the local beach, I was devastated. I go back there now and I'm like, you know what, that was a good thing they did that. Because, and so we take it seriously. But something had to change. It was not safe. And it was degrading the lake. And we can't have that on our watch. So we had to get in there and think, and I'm really proud we came up with a kind of a hybrid that's not too much. It fixes the problems without degrading the incredible experience at Willoughby that people have enjoyed for a long time.
They get a lot of people. They get a lot of people up in those mountains right there. I mean, it's not uncommon on a busy day to see. I'm no exaggeration. 500 cars all parked up through there, and it puts a lot of pressure when there's no services there. So greatly appreciated very much.
Thank you.
So what else we got going on?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention 3 large projects. And the reason I would mention these separately is because with the resurgence of the Land and Water Conservation Fund, a federal recreation grant funding program, we were able to match up 3 current projects with federal funds. And those are the Groton Nature Center rehabilitation. And that's a great partnership with Vermont Parks Forever. And I won't speak to the details of that. I'll defer on that. But the other 2 projects that are matched up with federal funds and represent a significant chunk of money of roughly $2 million altogether. That is the Sandbar State Park. Sorry, Senator Ingalls, but again up in Milton, renovating the entrance to Sandbar State Park, an iconic CCC era park that really hasn't seen much love in a lot of years. Well overdue.
A lot of popularity, a lot of use, a lot of popularity.
Yeah, huge. Realign the entrance so it's a safer entrance onto US Route 2 there. Deal with all the stormwater issues there. We're actually going to be able to meet our 3-acre stormwater requirement at that property early because of this project. And that's funded, that's matched with the Land and Water Conservation funds from the federal government, along with the Mount Philo Summit. Again, that's our first state park. We're coming up on our 100th anniversary. That project is reaching its design end of its design for rehabilitating the summit area, which is has to be one of the busiest parks in the state in terms of density of foot traffic on a single piece of land. And so those are 3 large projects, kind of rounds out the big portion of the funds for the fiscal year 22 projects. Those are projects that are ongoing.
Is that the park where you have the signs now that say Mazda's store this way?
We pass out gift certificates there towards the purchase. Yeah.
The only billboards in the state.
I'm trying to get a beverage concession stand there.
Yeah, he's still pushing for one of those green and gold roadside historical markers, so he can have that right out in front of his store.
We never thought of that angle for free signage from V-Trans. We'll have to work on that.
I'll take care of that, Ed.
It's fun to joke about this, and we've been to the store and we see the traffic and it's real. And I think to me, it makes a point here beyond Senator Mazza. The indirect related spending to parks visitation is really significant in local rural towns, all kinds of towns. And so, nearly a UVM study a few years ago pegged it at $90+ million a year in associated related indirect spending on parks visitation. It's not all at Mazza's store, but I think a chunk of it.
Sandbar must draw some crowds on weekends. I'll tell you, that place must be packed.
Nate, do you know the annual visitation there?
I can get that for you. Just give me a second.
It's really fun to look at the numbers of some of these parks, and yeah, it's staggering. They're just.
Did you go up this year? Did the rates go up this year or anything? Or
we are not this year. We are proposing for the coming year. We're going into rulemaking now, which is how we normally set prices for access to state lands. So we're going to rulemaking to propose some modest changes across our portfolio. There's day use and overnight use. Within overnight, there's tents and lean-tos and cabins and cottages. So there are different offerings, is in state and out of state. And so we have a variety of increases that are part of us keeping up with the economy and our, to pass these costs along for operating a business like this. So most of them haven't been changed in several years, but these are $1 and $2 increases and kind of thing across the board. But they add up when you consider we have well over 1 million visitors. It's a big part of our, this is separate, but our operating budget for parks is about $14 million. And 95% of that is created by us. In other words, 5%, less than 5% is general fund. So it's very important for us to be able to do.
You have to go through the rules committee process to change the fees that are charged?
Yes, so by statute, the commissioner of FBR has the authority to set the rates for use of state lands. And so that's different from most agencies of government that go through a fee bill to establish any fees that they might want.
Yeah, do you have to come through LCAR for that,
Yes.
which is the Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules?
We did.
Okay.
We will be there.
what is the fee to get into a park? How much is it to get in a park?
Well, Nate, why don't you give the rundown of the different kind of the span, because it's day use $4, overnight depends on what you're staying at, a tent site, a cabin, etc. So why don't you just give a quick overview, Nate, please?
For day use, we have currently it's $4 per adult, $2 for kids, and we have a number of discount group passes and a group rate.
That could be $5 in a minute. It wouldn't hurt a thing. Wouldn't hurt a thing.
And we are indeed proposing to bump that one up exactly as you say, Senator Mazza. It just seems like, we literally have people saying, I'd pay more.
Oh no, that $4 is nothing today. We're charging $15 to get in the fairgrounds, and you got to pay everything you're inside.
Right.
Yeah, we are proposing a package of fees, which we haven't in a few years, and that would be one of them. Camping ranges from $20 for a tent site to $28 for a site for out of state.
Wow, that's cheap. Wow.
Yeah, it's a great deal. Our goal is to keep state parks a great deal and get as many people as we can in there, and so they have a great experience. But we know we have to bring in the revenue to help support operations. Lean-tos are about $30 a night. Cabins are about $53 a night. Cottages range in price, and their price per week, anywhere from $560 per week to $770 per week, depending on the where the cottage is located.
Cigarettes are $13 a pack, so $4 to $5 is pretty cheap.
Yeah, and we have shelters, many shelters for rental, weddings, reunions, and those range from average around $100 a day for reservations.
And this is something we think a lot about, as Nate says, we have to generate the revenues for the operation. That's the model. We grow our own largely. But we also don't want to create a barrier to entry because there's a public, a kind of cultural mission here, a public benefit that comes from folks visiting. So we are mindful of where we stand regionally, nationally, internationally. How are we in the marketplace, right? And how do we compare to other forms of hospitality? We want to be a good rate. We don't want to create a barrier to entry, but we also are concerned about leaving money on the table. So we worked with Commissioner Pichak and his team at the Department of Financial Regulation and using their power and strength to do kind of a benchmarking study of where do we stand regionally in Vermont State Parks and how we charge. And it's as we have shot for, it seems, we're not the most expensive, we're not the least expensive. We're in the middle of the pack. That's something we've have worked towards. That said, they did identify a couple of areas for us to consider where we may be leaving money on the table. An example would be how we have a differential rate for out of state. I learned from former state parks director Greg Whipple that we charge everybody the same. We just give Vermonters a discount. But the fact is, it's common in this industry to have a differential rate for out of staters, and out of staters seem to know this and accept this to a point. Nate's very careful about that, not wanting to scare people away or seem like we're hosing out of staters. But the DFR benchmarking report indicated that we could probably increase the differential with respect to out-of-staters. Vermonters are kind of subsidizing this. Out-of-staters could be asked to pay a bit more without impinging on the visitation. So that's part of the mix of what we're putting forward, is to increase that differential between in-state and out-of-state. Again, it's thoughtful. We're appreciative of that kind of work that we have Commissioner Pichak's team to help us with, because that's not our strength, but we know it's an area that we need to pay attention to.
So a lean-to on Maidstone Lake, for instance, or a cabin on Button Bay, how far out in advance are those usually reserved?
The visitation is amazing. The occupancy rate is, I think, is arguably the envy of the hospitality industry. We're certainly weekends and holidays. It's basically we're booked through the system almost completely. It's the midweek, which remains a bit of a challenge for Nate and his team to think about how do we continue to fill the occupancy there. That's not unique to state parks. That's true of all hospitality. Nate, what else would you add here on the occupancy trends?
Just that we do take reservations 11 months in advance on a rotating basis.
Right.
So there's plenty of opportunity to get a site, and never stop trying. We have some no-shows, and folks definitely can help you find a site on those busy weekends and holidays. But in general, our occupancy rate through the whole season is very impressive. Between Memorial Day and Labor Day, it's above 70%. And then including the shoulder seasons, it's well above 50%. So our attendance has gone up about 40% over the last 4 years, which is remarkable. And Sandbar, by the way, we had just shy of 33,000 visitors registered last year for that park.
Wow, 33,000. That's a lot of ham sandwiches, Dick.
We just subsidize your parts of the state. We help you out.
We sure appreciate it.
So what is the Vermont State Senator discount?
Are you coming with a metal detector or without?
Yeah, there you go. You should get a percentage.
I'm happy to charge extra for a little bit of that detective work.
Well played, Nate. Well, when you come with me on a tour of your investments in Vermont State Parks, it'll be on us. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. We'll probably be still stuck here in the middle of June, so maybe we'll do some reserving.
Oh, don't say that.
Anything else you guys want to tell us this afternoon?
Well, Senator Miles said open this by saying 10 minutes, and I think we've exceeded that. So I'm going to say,
the longer they talk, the less money they're going to get.
I'm done. I stopped 20 minutes ago.
I just want to say I'm envious of all you guys. I know it's work. I know you have to do all the normal politics and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it must be very gratifying to know that you're leaving the smiles on faces of people constantly who come here to visit all these parks.
I appreciate you saying it. It's so true, Senator, and I will risk losing more money by saying a few more words, which is, it's one of the great joys. The incoming, people love it, and it's palpable. They comment on it. You can see it. There's memory, as we say, there's memories made. People are coming for generations. There's family history, connection. These are gateways to the outdoors and so much more. And it's really, it's appreciate you pointing out it's work. It isn't always easy. We're under capacity. We're stressed. COVID makes all those things even worse. And yet, I think there are people who, for whom they're dedicated, and it is motivating to be part of something so good. Did I get that okay, Nate? Is that good enough?
Well said. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder, both Commissioner and Senator. That's always something we have to keep in mind. It is a lot of work, but it's a great product.
So just, you may have noticed I picked up my phone. I just wanted to show you that some of us have memories that go way back. And I don't know if you can identify that location.
That looks like park housing, and I cannot identify it.
That's Emerald Lake State Park.
Oh, super.
And I took that picture recently, but my first visit to Vermont was as a kid coming to Emerald Lake State Park. And those memories are still with me. It's been 50 plus years
How cool is
since.
that?
We're not sure how we let him in, but he got in.
Well, Senator Ingles, this may have been one,
He wouldn't have been here.
in fairness, maybe this is one of the areas where Vermont State Parks has failed Vermont.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Nice.
Just trying to get into the swing of the fun here.
Well, there's another picture, Michael.
Oh,
That
wow.
is the beach, and that guitar is the same guitar that I had 50, it's got to be close to 55 years ago.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, the beach at Emerald Lake is an example of a project I remember, I don't know how many years ago, but that was a pretty significant overhaul there, was it not, fellas? You know, it was,
Absolutely.
you know, and that's another fun story there, right? Emerald Lake is like the local beach for the town of Dorset, and it's a partnership that we have with them. And it's just another example of the variety of models that we have in operating, and how important the local host communities are. That's the local town beach, is Emerald Lake State Park.
Well, as a teenager, I don't know if any of these guys have heard this story before, but I played guitar. This is before I even drove. And we were on that beach in 1973, I think it was. And every evening, the park, I called them park rangers at the time. I don't know what you would call them today. But they would all gather on the beach, meeting with all the campers and whatnot. And everybody would have a great time. We'd gather with guitars and whatnot. And this one particular evening, somebody came along and said, "The president's on the radio." The entire crowd got up and went over to the building, the concession stand, to listen to the radio. It was Richard Nixon giving his resignation speech.
Memorable.
So
Wow.
whatever that means, that's my earliest memories of being in Vermont. And I really do cherish those memories. My recollection of those guys who worked in the park, they had great uniforms. And I was really envious of those uniforms and the hats. And I really wanted one. And they said, "You can't have one unless you actually work here."
You're not
So
getting
no,
one.
I got a Vermont State Senate hat now, but I don't think it compares to.
Well, I told you I'm gonna make good on this. We're gonna we'll hook you up.
I got a smoke.
Alan Bean sells manuals.
I got a
Probably goes back and funds their program. We should have Alan Bean sell
Well,
ours.
we sell state parks hats, but
I got a pocket calendar from the Forest and Parks. Look at that.
oh, you got your smoky calendar. I like it.
Smokey the Bear.
Yeah, that's a classic.
How much are you selling those for?
$1.50. No, $1.99. Sounds under $2.
Oh. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to Senate Institutions. As you know, the bill that you get funding from us from is still over on the other side of the building. If they do something to it, and we need to have some more conversation about how they've tweaked it.
They're not gonna touch your budget. We're gonna take care of that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. We'll look forward, you know how to reach us. We'll come back as needed. And again, thanks for your interest, your support. And I do hope we can arrange, when the time's right, a little tour. Get out and see some of these.
Woods Island, Groton Island,
Yeah.
Lights Island.
Love to have a visit.
And
Thank
we'll
you, Nate.
include hats.
Yes. Thank you, Nate and Frank. Appreciate your time here. Senators, see you.
Have a good day.
Thank
all
you.
very
Thank
much.
you all. Take care.
Thank you all.
That will conclude our committee business this afternoon. So to everybody on YouTube, have a great